Darshan ZionSpartan Upadhyaya is the top lane player for Team Coast, competing in both splits of the LCS. After finishing second in the spring split, Coast fell to 7th for the second, meaning they'll have to requalify for Season 4. He is known for his aggressiveness, his Riven play, and snowballing his lane out of control. And welcome to the show, everyone. ZionSpartan, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad to see you're kind of like chilling in the Coast house right now. Got some people behind you and everything like that. How's the time off been treating you so far?
It's been pretty good. We've actually gotten back to start practicing because Riot's actually allowed the teams that have been relegated for sure to start practicing in some of the amateur event things. And we've actually got a small tournament this weekend, so started playing again, and it's been pretty good. We're taking it slow. Have
you guys kind of been like knocking a little bit of rust off?
Yeah. We've been getting the rust off. We've had kind of like a 2-week break, and now we're starting to get back into the thick of things.
Who are you going to be playing, or like which tournament is this, if you know?
It's the GGL Tournament, and it's us and two of the denial teams, I think.
Okay.
Two of the denial teams, and then also Complexity Academy. So it's not the Complexity that was at PAX, but their Academy team. So both denial teams and the Complexity Academy team. So it's 4 teams, and I think it's this Saturday and Sunday, September 7th and September 8th.
That's pretty cool. I guess the main thing that I wanted to bring up just kind of off the bat was like we saw you guys as GGU finish the spring split. Second place, you guys kind of had a very great playoff, taking out some teams that we didn't really expect, finishing second behind TSM, and everyone, that was kind of the hype kind of going into this split was what's going to happen to Coast. And you guys finished 7th. Obviously I'm guessing that you guys probably would have wanted to finish a little bit higher.
Things did definitely not go as expected. I kind of feel like we kind of didn't do what we did the previous split, which was kind of like have our own unique way of playing the game. We tried to start adapting more than we should have, I feel, and I think we kind of lost our original touch, and I think that's one of the big reasons that we didn't perform as well going into the summer split.
It's interesting that you say that, because like normally one of the things that we kind of observe about teams anyway is like they need to find that kind of stability and they need to find that consistency. So it's I've heard this a couple times where teams kind of stop trying to play their game and trying to like start playing something that they think is going to be successful, and it ends up not working for them.
Definitely. A lot of people would attribute us not playing that well to switching out our roster, but I definitely feel like that wasn't one of the main reasons that we performed so poorly. And while it may have led to a bad start, I feel like we're going to come back even stronger, and I feel like relegation is just going to make us a better team, even though we started so high from 2nd place and now we're down to 7th. But we're going to try not to let that get us down and try to focus on how we can get back to winning again.
I think that like there's no better motivation than the whole relegation like qualifying thing.
Definitely.
And especially now that Riot is like letting you guys kind of keep sharp in tournaments, that's something that really works in your favor, because if you look at Worlds happening and then the break between Worlds and everything else, that's like 3 months, and in League of Legends that's a huge amount of time, right? So continue.
What I wanted to bring up was that it's actually better to be a 7th, 8th place team, 6th, 7th, 8th place team instead of a 4th, 5th place team, because the 6th, 7th, and 8th place teams get to practice in the amateur things because they're relegated, right? So they get a this is my personal view.
Yeah.
That they get to keep practicing up to the relegation matches so that they'll keep practicing and scrimming and getting better. Meanwhile, the 4th and 5th place team is going to have 3 months of doing nothing, and essentially they don't have to scrim, they don't have to do anything. Meanwhile, the 3 bottom teams will still be practicing really hard, playing in the MCS league, going to like these online tournaments and all that for amateur teams, and getting ready for the relegation so that they can come back into the spring split next year even stronger. And I feel like that is an advantage for the 6th to 8th place teams if they are really confident in their skill of getting back into the LCS. And that's how I personally feel about it.
Coast was one of the we've kind of seen more news over and over about teams picking up, coaches and analysts and that kind of stuff. And Coast kind of had a very unique situation where you guys were one of the first people to bring on like a former LCS player. You have that kind of advantage where you're taking someone who played for a team previously and is now, actively helping. So like, what's the main, if you kind of had to say what he's worked on the team the most on, like what is kind of elements brought to the table in that regard?
I think that he's helped most in regards to our team fights, but I feel like it's been a good and bad experience, and we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot of good things from Elements, but there's also things that we learned things that we shouldn't have done from him, because coaches are there to kind of give you advice, but you should always kind of take that advice with a grain of salt. And I feel like we took Elements' advice on his aspect of everything too literally, and it kind of made us change our personal play styles and like ways that we shouldn't have. But he was very helpful in aspects of like, hey, you should fight this team fight like this, and the tanks should be initiating like this. You should be peeling back in this team comp and things like that. And he helped out with the picks and bans. That was really helpful. But I think in terms of our own champion pools and stuff like that, I think we could have done a better job doing that on our own, and kind of things like that. Which is where the coach should kind of help you on, but shouldn't kind of say, hey, you should play this, or hey, you should play that. And I feel like Elements helped out a lot, but sometimes we didn't know when to stop him from helping us because he helped us too much, almost.
It's kind of interesting thinking about it, because you think of Elements as been, one of these long time LCS or like top tier North American players anyway. And like, I was doing a little bit of research back on, your own team history coming into this, and you've played with Don't Mash Me for like almost a year. You've played with Nintendo X for even longer, just through like going back from, Team Coast, GGU, Team Dynamic, and then even going back to like Monomaniac days, like 2012, which again, like I said, a year is an age in League of Legends. Seems like so much has happened since Season 2 finals. But what do you think are kind of like the main advantages of playing with the same guys for so long?
Well, yeah, as you said, I think I've been on a team with Nintendo for almost most of my gaming career, except for that one time that we decided to kick him off and have Atlanta come on, and things didn't turn out so well. So we got him back, and yeah, I've been with Nintendo since I started, which was about like last year March, and it's almost been like a year and a half. And Don't Mash Me for like I think it's been like around exactly a year with Don't Mash Me. And I think one of the advantages of having teammates for that long is you kind of just get to know your teammates better, and you become closer friends with them, and you know them better not only out of the game but also in the game, just because of you've been with them so long. So I kind of know how Don't Mash Me likes to play. I kind of know how Nintendo likes to play, and that makes it much easier to play with them. And just since we've known each other so long, we're just better friends, and that just makes us better teammates.
I find that in the case of a jungler, that's especially true, because if you look at people who have been playing with the same jungler forever, you know how the dude ganks. You know how he's going to be, which champions he's going to play, and like what strengths, weaknesses those champions have. And I found that like, especially teams who have junglers who have been there for a very long time, they're usually the ones that have the best kind of synergy in terms of actually playing the game.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever Nintendo comes top the gank, I usually know how he wants to, like, even without like verbally saying it, I usually know how he wants to get in there. And usually when we get in those 2v2 engages with the opposite jungler and top laner, we're really well coordinated, and we usually come out on top. But that hasn't been happening as much lately. But yeah, I feel like we've got really great synergy, and that just has come from being a teammate with them for so long.
At the same time, does that make it more difficult to diagnose problems, because you kind of have this like comfort and almost bad habits?
I guess when you've had a certain teammate for so long, well, for myself personally, this is how I kind of see things about that specific thing. When you only know your own role best. So I know top lane best. I know when a top laner is playing their role well, or if they're playing it poorly. I can't be like, since I'm not a jungler, and since I'm not a support or an AD carry, I can't gauge like that well if they're playing their role at the optimal level. I can only gauge how well it's working with our team. And I kind of know how the jungler works with our team, but I wouldn't know how which way the jungler role works the best.
Hmm.
I kind of know how the top top lane is supposed to go because that's kind of my role, and I know the best way to play it for me and myself. But I kind of feel like it's kind of hard to judge if a player is playing their role well or not because everybody kind of has their unique style things, and if you just compare like Nintendo to Meteos or something like that, the way Meteos plays is that his whole team likes to give him a lot of the resources and farm,
Yeah.
and on our team we're kind of like I want the farm, I want the farm. Like Shifter wants the farm, I want the farm. Domashni wants the farm. So it's kind of hard to judge how well your teammate's playing because every team plays differently based on certain individual players' play styles. So it's kind of hard to judge.
So kind of like keeping in with that theme, what's the one thing that Coast does better than any other LCS team?
Huh. I'd like to say that's a hard question.
Even if it's like one of those things where you just see, like it may not even be a major thing. It's just one of those things where you're like, okay, we know how to time something right. You know?
I think we're really good at winning lanes when we're picking to win lanes, and I think that oftentimes when we get good lane matchups, we often win the game. And so I feel like having strong laning phases is probably our biggest strength, and transitioning that into split pushing and things like that. I'd say that strong lane phases and split pushing is probably our biggest strength.
If you had to like pick one thing that you could change about yourself or your own playstyle, what would it be?
I think that I would probably choose. I would want to make myself a better team player because I think I'm really good when it comes to a lot of individual aspects, but there's still team aspects, especially during team fights, where I could play it better from a team standpoint. And it's funny because I was talking to Doa and Monte Cristo when they came over to the LCS a couple weeks back, and I asked Doa what he thought the biggest difference between Korean and North American teams were, and he was saying that the North American players, they're kind of always focusing on me, and how they can do better themselves. And Korean players are all thinking, what can we do that's best for the team? And they kind of have that whole aspect on the team as opposed to me that kind of, I think, makes them play a lot better as a team. And I think that I could have a better team-oriented mindset.
That's kind of one of those things is like when people bring you up, it's specifically like it's usually in the same breath as your Riven play because like you played Riven a lot during this season, was very successful, but it's one of those things that we usually see you snowballing on Riven or snowballing on some other kind of really a top lane that can carry the game. And with the kind of going back over to Korea though, we have top laners that are very prolific. You've got like Shy, Insect, Flame. Those are characters or like players that very much carry their own. They once they win lane, they can be a huge influence on how the rest of the game plays out. They can be very strong 1v1 people, like similarly to your Riven. But I guess that's like exactly what you just kind of said, where when those people rejoin their team in the team fight, it's usually to pick up other people kills or like just make sure that the team fight goes exactly how it's supposed to instead of just getting themselves more farmed.
Yeah, that's definitely been my best play style, to kind of be that split pusher who gets a lot of farm and gets a lot of levels ahead of the rest of the enemy team and his team himself. And that's also why it can kind of be a big problem for me to be a better team player, because I'm often the one split pushing and getting all the farm and things like that. So it's kind of a unique transition that I just kind of need to get a little bit better at. But I don't know. I think I kind of enjoy my unique play style, which is what I want to continue doing more of, because I feel like I didn't do it as much during the summer split as I did towards the end of the spring split.
I guess it's kind of like accentuating the positives and kind of hiding the negatives, like being kind of so good at like what you're doing that it, hides a little bit of weaknesses that the certain style might go to. And like, as you're saying, like you're saying that you want to become more of a team player, and that doesn't mean you necessarily have to stop playing the way you like playing. But if you're willing to add things without like subtracting from what makes the game fun for you, you can get better without changing your style terribly.
Exactly, because the most important thing about a player is preserving their unique style, because a player usually plays the best when they're playing the way they want to play and they enjoy playing, but it is also that's also beneficial for the team. It can't be like I'm gonna play Heimerdinger top because I really like playing Heimerdinger. It's got to be something that's actually like plausible, but at the same time, something that's kind of your unique style, and that kind of throws teams off guard because unique picks are actually really strong because it's things that teams don't expect that most often catch them off guard and allow you to get advantages.
Yeah, that was like one of the first things I noticed, at least in last year's season 2 world finals, was watching Shy play Jax. And Jax hadn't been, like, as far as I can remember anyway, Jax hadn't really been played a ton at that point. And seeing him, I think it was against CLG, picking up a double kill on Hotshot and Voyboy, being like, wow, that was one of those things that really stuck out for me. I think you know the play.
Yeah,
but
Shy was really amazing on Jax last season during the World Championships.
Do you have any like players, either like abroad or kind of in the North America that you kind of, I wouldn't say look up to, but kind of like look at and say, okay, I'm going to kind of pay attention to how he plays?
I was watching I was watching OGN a lot, and I kind of realized that Flame kind of plays the way that a very similar way to the way I play.
Yeah.
Which is he's really split push oriented, and he plays those champions that like to get big and then keep split pushing and get really strong. And I don't necessarily look up to him, but I like to watch him to see what champion he's going to play next and how he's going to play it, because I've realized his playstyle is really similar to mine.
And I guess kind of wrapping this interview up, one of the things that you're doing now is you're actually hosting classes on lolclass.com, I believe.
Yeah,
sorry. No, continue. I was going to say, though, that, like, how is it, like, I can imagine playing well, but there's got to be a whole other skill set in distilling what makes you successful. Like I have people asking me, like, how do I break into doing interviews in esports? I'm just like, do work, like, play the game, or like write stuff, so how do you kind of like look at yourself and be like, this is what makes me good and this is how I like talk to other people about it?
A little backstory is that I actually used to be bronze, and back when I played in season 1, of course everybody's bronze, but I was about, like, when they had ELO rankings, I was about like 700 ELO at one point, and I was actually not that good. And what I did was I just kept playing, and I was using a laptop at the time that was really bad, and then I switched to my brother's computer, which was a lot better, and then I just started playing more and more, and then I went up 800 ELO, 1000 ELO, 1200 ELO. Eventually I was silver, eventually I was gold, and then I finally got all the way up to diamond at the end of the season, and I kind of realized that all I had to do was just keep playing the game and wanting to get better, and that kind of just made me a better player. And I feel like that anyone that has the drive to want to become the best will definitely get up there and can become good enough. And obviously there's natural talent, but I don't know. I feel like I didn't have that much natural talent. I was pretty good, but I just played the game a lot, and that's how I got better. And yeah, I feel like I'm also doing the law classes, and I feel like being able to give some of that knowledge is really helpful, because you kind of help players learn things that it took you a long time to learn. Because from playing all these games, there's so many different things to learn about League of Legends that it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but to give specific tips on a certain champion will definitely get you better at that certain champion and can help you get ELO faster. And sorry, I kind of lost.
No worries, man. It was just that's actually really good, because like I think the easiest way into kind of like giving kind of insight into your play style or the way that you can teach other people is to just kind of do that. People always ask you the question, like, what do you wish other people, like, what do you wish you learned or knew, like, when you first started out? And if you can answer those questions, it's at least a good base and can get kind of people thinking in a different way to improve themselves anyway. I actually, just kind of like wrapping it up, did you have any kind of like shout outs that you wanted to do besides, I guess, your LOL class?
Shout out to our sponsors, Corsair and CyberPower PC, and shout out to Team Coast for being such a great sponsor so far, getting us a nice gaming house. And yep, he said besides law class.
Pitch the law class. You got to pitch the law class.
Yeah, and the law class, for some great classes over there.
Awesome.
And yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I realize that you guys are probably all like getting back into the competitive mode. So thank you again for taking the time. Good luck.
Definitely no problem. Thanks a lot to you too.
Good luck to you guys during your tournament. And of course, if you guys watching want to see more guides, more interviews, or anything like that, you can check out lolking.net. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can. You can go to twitter.com/lolking.net, and the dot is spelled out DOT. If you can also subscribe to us on YouTube, which would really help us. If you want to follow me, you can at twitter.com/MattDemers. It should be somewhere on the screen. You can follow what I'm going to be doing, some stuff that I work on. I'm going to be at Worlds. How about you, Darshan? Are you going to be at Worlds?
Yeah, I'm definitely planning on going there.
Good. So hopefully I'll be able to see you. We'll be able to maybe do, a part 2 or something like that. For all the people watching, again, thank you for watching. Have a good night.